It is August 14th, 2026, and we have some pretty exciting news because Frenkie de Jong has fired back at the media, calling Gerard Romero a liar. Not directly, but indirectly. Let's put it that way. Don't worry, we're going to review those statements. Also, Julián Álvarez. The saga continues because today, a huge bombshell being dropped in Argentine media. And finally, we're gonna talk about two alternatives to Julián Álvarez. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and welcome to another Barca News podcast, which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, where not only we discuss Barcelona news, but where I also get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments and reacting to them live. So start filling out the chat section with your comments, your questions, and anything you want to add to the conversation. Today we are starting a little bit late. I do apologize about that. I had to work very late, but I'm finally done. I'm free. I'm ready to do the podcast, and I'm ready for this weekend. Tomorrow's going to be hot, so I'm going to go to the beach. I haven't been to the beach a single day since the summer began, and, well, the summer is almost over. But anyways, let's continue, because if you are watching once this ends, I will be putting timestamps and chapters in the description, or timestamps in the description, chapters in the timeline. There you go. In case you want to skip through the discussion. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. If you're looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise from any football team around the world, you can hit the gift bag. If you are looking to place any sports bets, you can head to Bet Us. And if you're looking to buy sports merchandise from other sports that it's not football, you can hit to Fanatics. All links in the description. You click on them, you get access to some pretty cool deals and offers courtesy of Barca News. Now, with the intro out the way, let's begin with the news, because Frenkie de Jong gave an interview today to Barca TV, which is the club-owned media channel or streaming platform, I should say, where he called Gerard Romero a liar. Didn't quite say a liar, but he said that, everything that he said is not true and that he's done that before. So in other words, calling him a liar. Now, if you don't know who Gerard Romero is, I'm sure a lot of you do. He's a reporter based in Barcelona. He has his own streaming program, Gigantes, right? I think he streams on Twitch, if I'm not mistaken. I've never seen his program myself live, but I do follow his social media accounts. And he is known for a lot of breaking news, especially when it comes to like signings or sales, things like that. Because after all, he is there. He is in Barcelona. He has his ear to the ground. He has connections at the club. He has reporters that work for him posted at the airport, at restaurants that are constantly frequented by Deco, by Laporta, etc. So a lot of times he does have very great news, breaking news that he gets to before anyone. But he's also been, accused sometimes of lying on behalf of the club. Right. And while today, Frenkie de Jong on TV, Barca TV, came out and said that Gerard Romero had said a lot of lies about him and that he had done so in the past. Now, what Frenkie de Jong was referring to was the reports that he had refused to play for Barcelona against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League in order to stay healthy and be able to play for in the World Cup. And also that that his relationship between Hansi Flick and the club had deteriorated, right? These two reports that Gerard Romero mentioned. And, well, this was Frenkie de Jong's response to Gerard Romero. I feel there's a lot of hype surrounding me, a lot of fake news and things like that. And it's bothering me. That's why I'm here today, to set the record straight. A lot of things are being written that aren't true. And I've noticed that they're damaging my image and affecting the way some people view me. Take Gerard Romero, damn, straight up, just calling him by name. Not even saying, hey, what's out there, or some reports that are out there that say this are not true. And then you could just be like, okay, well, who wrote that report? I'm like, all right, so we know who Frenkie de Jong is talking about. No. Frenkie de Jong is going straight into it, like boom, Gerard Romero, calling them by name. I like that. I like that, by the way. Just say what you got to say, man. Take Gerard Romero, for example. He, the one who started all this, said that I refused to play against Atletico in the Champions League last season. That's not true. It's not true. It simply didn't happen. Then he said that my relationship with the manager is very poor, obviously meaning Hansi Flick. And that's completely untrue. And now was Gerard Romero. I want to mention his name because I believe he has told other lies in the past. I won't ignore this any longer. I'll mention Gerard Romero's name again because he needs to understand that if he goes out and says things that aren't true, I'll come out and say they're not true. So Frenkie de Jong coming out swinging, calling out Gerard Romero by name, saying that everything he said about him, it's all lies, it's not true, and that he has spread lies about Frenkie de Jong in the past. Now, where do I stand with all of this? I did see those reports that supposedly Frenkie de Jong refused to play against Atletico Madrid when Hansi Flick called up on him because he wanted to stay healthy for Netherlands, and that Hansi Flick his relationship with Frenkie de Jong broke down with him. I didn't report about those things on the channel. Why? Because I wasn't too sure that those reports were true. Those kind of reports are always very difficult to verify, and that's why I decided not to touch on them. Because, you know, with this board of directors, unfortunately, we have seen in the past that whenever the club wants to push a player out, they always lie, right? They mount these campaigns against the player to turn the public against them and be easier to get rid of them, right? Most recently, we saw it with Mark ter Stegen, right? The club wanted Mark ter Stegen out, and all of a sudden, we started seeing all these reports about how horrible Mark ter Stegen was. He wouldn't give the speech. He wouldn't travel with the team while he was injured and in the Champions League. Right? They do this. The board of directors does this. It's unfortunate, but we know that they do. They did it with Xavi Hernandez as well, right? When they were trying to push him out, same thing. All these reports about how horrible Xavi Hernandez was, how the players hated him, how this and that, right? And lo and behold, Mark ter Stegen did not want to leave. The club realizes this campaign is not working. They sit down, they talk to him. Oh, and all of a sudden, these reports stop. All of a sudden, Mark ter Stegen is not this horrible monster that is just destroying the club from within, right? After Xavi gets fired, again, these reports stop. All of a sudden, Xavi Hernandez is not this horrible coach that, you know, is doing all these evil things to the locker room, right? Because this board of directors does this kind of thing all the time. When they want to push a player out or a coach or someone, they start leaking to the media that's very close to them, including Gerard Romero, lies. And I'm sure these reporters know about it. Maybe they don't, but that MO has been seen before. And this is why when I saw these reports about Frenkie de Jong refusing to play, I was like, I don't know if I'm buying this. So I don't know if I agree with it. Nonetheless, I am still one of the people who has always advocated for Frenkie de Jong being sold, but not because some bullshit lie that the Barcelona board of directors is telling me through Twitter, through reporters that they're close to, but because of things that I've seen with my own eyes, right? For example, the fact that he's been at the club for 7 years and he has never been consistent, right? That's not something the club told me through some reporter on Twitter. That's something that I've seen with my own eyes in every single match that Frenkie de Jong has played, right? The fact that Frenkie de Jong reported to the Netherlands training camp during FIFA international break injured, that Koeman had to send them back. That's not a lie that a reporter told me. Koeman really literally came out and said, Frenkie de Jong showed up injured, I sent him home, right? That's the fact that Frenkie de Jong played while injured during the World Cup. That's not a lie that a reporter told me through Twitter. I literally saw it with my own eyes. I saw his knee all bloated, blue, green, purple, all colors with this big bandage. I saw him on the bench with big bags of ice after every Netherlands match. All these things I've seen with my own eyes. And what I've seen with my own eyes is that Frenkie de Jong has never, ever lived up to the hype when we signed him from Ajax. He was never the Ajax Frenkie. He was never consistent. He was never a difference maker. He was a player that sometimes had great moments, but a lot of times also had really bad ones. And he's a player that, while he's tried to play more than once injured for the Netherlands, something that a player should not do. And some people say, oh, he never does that for Barca. I don't want him to do that for Barca. I don't want him to do that for Barca. I don't want him to do that for the Netherlands. No player should force an injury. No player should play while injured. He does. And these are things I've seen with my own eyes. And this is why I'm against Frenkie de Jong continuing at the club. And this is why I've always advocated for Frenkie to leave, but not because some bullshit report that Gerard Romero told me or some reporter that's in bed with this board of directors told me, but because of things that I saw with my own eyes. Now, Gerard Romero has replied to Frenkie de Jong saying, well, if all this is lies, that the relationship with the club is not, it's great, and with Flick it's great, why is it that Barcelona are willing to spend 70, 80 million euros on Rodri? That was kind of Gerard Romero's reply. Look, I don't know who's telling the truth here. I don't know if Frenkie de Jong is telling the truth and Gerard Romero's lying. I don't know if Gerard Romero is telling the truth and Frankie's lying. I'm sure the truth is someone in the middle. It's never one or the other. But to me, it doesn't make much difference because my opinion of Frenkie not continuing at the club is not based on some PR campaign held by one or the other. It's about what I've seen on the field, which is what I care about, by Frenkie de Jong. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about this whole saga, Frenkie versus Gerard Romero, because he was really pissed. If you go watch, I can't obviously show you because the Barca would flag me for copyright infringement. But if you have the streaming software, go watch the interview. Frenkie was really pissed, man. And he looked very, very angry. Anyways, let's start with the comment section. And then we are going to talk about the huge, massive bombshell that was dropped today in the Julián Álvarez saga. You're not going to believe it. Or maybe you will, because after all, Atletico Madrid are a pathetic club. All right, let's see. Nathan says, hi, Mo. Barca should stop wasting their time on going for Julián Álvarez and go for other options for that CF. I feel like it's too late for that. We're towards the end of the summer transfer market. We only have like 2 weeks left. And by now, I don't think there's any options left, honestly, or at least options that are worthy of being a starter. I think this is something that Barcelona should have considered before. But, their heart was set on Julián. They wanted Julián. And, now we're in where we're in. And plus, as you know, the club doesn't want to abandon Julián because they feel he has, completely burned the bridge between him and Atletico Madrid. So they don't want to leave him hanging. That's the club's position. So I feel at this point, it's most likely a little bit too late to take this position. Arnold says, hi, Mo, it's Friday, your favorite day of the week. And we all know why. It's podcast day and it's the weekend. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is my favorite day of the week because it is podcast day. And of course, it is the weekend. I love podcast days, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But then you add to the fact that today we also have, the beginning of the weekend. It's double reason to celebrate. So, yes, it is my favorite day. You are right, my friend. And thank you for being here with me on my favorite day. And Z Delmore says, hey, Mo, I see Barca trying to sign a new Ferran Torres because this guy is not consistent. I think you're talking about Luis Suarez. We're going to talk about him in a little bit. I don't want to get ahead of myself. And Alna says, I think we shouldn't sign anyone to replace the Sardine. We can promote Hamza instead and have him learn and develop, because he's a junior Krupi, Tresoli, Fesnegaslani, meaning a young, promising striker. I mean, I think Hamza will be with the first team. Is he ready? I don't think so, to be a starter, to be playing consistently. No, because, he's only 18 years old. He has zero experience in top-flight football. I mean, even when he was in Egypt for Al Ahly, he only played a few matches with their senior team. And then he came to Barcelona. He was injured for a while. And then he only played for like a month with the Juvenil A, which is the under-19 team, which is not even a professional team, right? It's youth football. So he has zero experience in first division, let alone first division of one of the best leagues in the world. So, do I want to see Hamza training with the first team the whole season and maybe getting minutes here and there? Yes, absolutely. But is he ready to actually be started for Barca or even, playing consistently for the first team? No, I think, if we want Hamza to develop, we would need a striker to be the actual starter and then have Hamza, come in, maybe Copa del Rey match against a fourth division team. Maybe, we're up 5-0 and he can come in the last 5-10 minutes, right? Things like that, because, you need to give him a lot of time to just only adjust to the Barca system, adjust to Spain, adjust to his new teammates, adjust to Hansi Flick's system, and then the hardest of all, adjust to first division football in one of the best leagues in the world. That takes a lot, my friend. That takes a lot. Remember, not even Messi was starting when he got promoted to the first team. Lamine Yamal, same thing, right? It takes a while, right? Even Lamine or even Messi, let's just stay with Messi, the greatest footballer ever. When he got promoted to the first team, he was a bench player, and he would come on towards the end of matches, right, here and there, because even the greatest ever needed time to adjust to first division. We cannot expect Hamza to, after a month and a half in youth football, to all of a sudden be able to keep up with first division. Like, it wasn't even with Barca Athletic. Even Barca Athletic, their fourth division, not even with them. He was with the Juvenil A. Like, we're talking about a massive, massive jump in intensity and skill and speed, strength, etc., etc., etc. Joe Allo says, big up Mo, who would you sign if it was up to you if we don't get Julián? I mean, honestly, there's honestly no options left. But if I had to sign someone that would be somewhat realistic, and I say somewhat with big emphasis on the somewhat, would be Harry Kane, because even though it's not fully realistic because he wants to stay at Bayern, he would cost maybe 60, 70 million, which makes him a little more realistic than, for example, an option like Erling Haaland, right? Because Erling's going to be 200 plus. But I feel at this point, I don't know if there are any options left. Irish Goulet says, hello, Mo, listening from Ireland. Big fan of the channel. Really enjoy the no-nonsense way you present the news. Really hope Barca can make use of the talented squad we have and get a suitable striker. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you for your comment. Thank you for being here with us. And yes, I truly hope that we do find a suitable striker, and I truly hope that we can make the best out of this squad, which I think we will. We've added some very important players to the squad, and, there's still more to come. And Lucius with the donation. Let's fucking go. Lucius, thank you so much, my friend, for your generosity. Lucius says Lamine Yamal is a new false nine for Barca. I have a feeling like it's going to be Anthony Gordon, right? And, of course, at this point, it's all speculation, right? We don't know until we actually see the season. But I feel like that because Flick has talked about this in the preseason. He says he likes Lamine more on the wing, right? So I think I could see Anthony Gordon more of that, because Anthony Gordon has played as a false nine. He played towards the end of last season with Newcastle. He played a lot of matches as a false nine. And, given his speed, given his powerful shot, given his height, his physicality, it makes sense, right? Because you want a center forward not only to be fast enough to beat defenders and have a strong shot to be able to score, but you also want someone who's physical so he can fight defenders in the box, and someone who's tall who can also head the ball, right? Lewandowski could do all those things for you, for example. Lewandowski was a pretty strong physical guy. Like, might have not been like a freaking Adama Traoré, but nonetheless, he was, and who knows, maybe, maybe Dani Olmo, like Barca Got Culture suggested. But I feel like it's going to be maybe Anthony Gordon. But, of course, we'll see. We'll see. All of this is nothing more than speculation. We're not going to know for sure until the season actually begins and we see who Flick chooses. And I'm sure also Flick is going to rotate. You know how Flick likes to just completely swap out players. That's why he wants versatile players that can play all across three positions. So I'm sure there's going to be different players playing a false nine for different matches throughout the season. So it's going to be exciting. I think, with the addition of Adeyemi, Gordon, I think it's going to be an exciting season. If we finalize Rodri, it's going to be a pretty exciting season. But anyways, let's get back to the news, because we do have to talk about the man of the hour, Julián Álvarez, because today Álvaro Arevalo, an Argentine reporter very close to Julián and to the Argentine national team, dropped a huge bombshell that is going to leave you perplexed, because it makes you wonder what the hell is going on at Patético Madrid. Now, let's rewind a little bit before we talk about what Álvaro Arévalo talked about today, because early in the morning today, we woke up to the news that media in Spain, media in Madrid, I should say, that are close to Atletico Madrid, broke the story that supposedly during preseason training, as you know, Wednesday was the first time Julián trained with the whole team. He reported back from vacation on Monday. However, the team had 2 days off because they had just gotten back from South Korea, from preseason match in South Korea. And Wednesday was the first time that Julián trained with the whole team. And of course, we talked about that meeting between Julián and El Cholo Simeone right before training, where Julián said, "Hey man, I want to leave. Can you help me out?" And El Cholo Simeone was like, "Look, that's the club's decision. They want you to keep. So they want to keep you. It's out of my hands. I'm just here to support you as your coach, right? So it's kind of like, sorry, bro, I'm not gonna help you." And then we saw Julián train throughout the whole day, where he looked pretty upset, right? He did not look happy at all. And while today the Madrid media that's close to Atletico Madrid broke the story that supposedly during preseason training, Julián admitted to his teammates that he had made a mistake about making the public statement, and about saying that he wanted to leave Atletico Madrid, and that he apologized to his teammates, and that he was willing to give his all to his teammates, to Atletico Madrid, to the coach, etc., etc., etc. Right, and this was the kind of like breaking story coming out of Madrid today in the morning. Now, when Julián saw this, he got really mad because apparently this was not true. This never happened. This was just Atletico Madrid, trying to save face. So because Atletico Madrid did that, Julián Álvarez immediately contacted his reporter friends in the Argentine media and gave him his version of what had happened. And of course, let the media get straight to work with Argentine media. Several different reporters from different channels all reported that not only was this a lie, that Julián did not admit that he was wrong, that Julián did not apologize about making his statement, but then Álvaro Arévalo dropped a huge bombshell. This was Julián saying, "Okay, you're going to lie? Fine. I'm going to expose you even more." And the huge bombshell was, remember those public statements that Julián did during the World Cup saying that he wanted to leave Atletico Madrid? According to Álvaro Arévalo, the reason why Julián Álvarez made those statements public was because Miguel Ángel Gilmarín, the CEO of Atletico Madrid, told him to make them so the Atletico Madrid fan base could see that this was the player's decision and not the club. I'm going to repeat that because this is nuts. The statements that Julián Álvarez made during the World Cup saying that the best thing for all parties involved was a transfer so he can fulfill his dream were statements that he made because Atletico Madrid CEO Miguel Ángel Gilmarín told them to make, because he wanted the fan base to understand that this was not a club decision but a player decision. In other words, when Julián met in February, as you might recall, Gilmarín promised him that, okay, yeah, you can leave, you could go to Barca as long as we get an important offer. From Barcelona makes this important offer, 100 million euros. Atletico Madrid says no. Julián gets angry, texts Miguel Ángel Gilmarín saying, "Hey, what the hell? You promised me if a good offer, if an important offer from Barca comes, you would let me go. That good offer has come. You're not letting me go. What the hell is going on?" And Miguel Ángel Gilmarín tells them, "We need you. If you want to leave, you got to make these statements public so the fan base knows it's not me or the board, that it's you who wants to leave." Julián makes those statements And what does Miguel Ángel Gilmarín do? He makes an interview. He gives an interview once again saying that Julián is not for sale. Guys, this is insane. What is going on at Atletico de Madrid? They have completely lost it. They have lost the plot. How do you promise a player to let him leave and then as soon as he turns his back says, "Psych, you're not leaving"? Then you tell him, "Go make statements and we'll let you leave." He makes the statements and then you go, "Psych, you're not leaving again." What the hell is going on at Atletico de Madrid? This is insane. Insane. Now, it's reported that Julián Álvarez is completely devastated that he's still stuck at Atletico Madrid. He's obviously feels incredibly betrayed because Miguel Ángel Gilmarín promised him, didn't fulfill the promise, then told him to make the statements, didn't fulfill the promise. Cholo Simeone promised him, also turned his back on him. And now he feels like he's a total prisoner amongst liars who cannot keep their promise. Now, Julián is still maintaining his hope that he can leave Atletico Madrid. But I got to say, Julián, if all this is true, everything that you're saying is true, that the club promised you this, and then they lied to you, that they told you to make those statements, and they lied to you again, then it's time to fight fire with fire. It's time to take some drastic measures. Because a club that's willing to do all these things are not going to do things the right way. So why are you trying to do things the right way? If they want to play games, it's time to play games back. It's time to take some drastic measures. Whatever it might be. Coming out, doing full interview, public statements. If you have any evidence of this happening, leak it, fuck it. Expose them. Strike. Refuse to play. I don't know. But if this club is willing to do these things, if this small club is willing to do these things, well, it's time to fight fire with fire. So, Julián, a ball is in your court, man. If you truly want to come to Barca, it's time to do something drastic. All right, let's do the comment section, and then we are going to talk about two strikers that Barcelona are considering as alternatives to Julián if it doesn't go through. Kebacham says, "No, Mo. What do you mean there are no options left?" I mean, what other options can we think of? And when I mean other options, I'm not just saying any center forward. Right? I'm not just saying, oh, you can play in that position. Cool, let's sign you. I'm talking about a world-class center forward that can guarantee you 30, 40 goals a season. That's what I mean. I'm not saying just anyone who can play as a center forward, right? Bro, it's, Fisnik Aslani. And it's like, can Fisnik guarantee you 30, 40 goals in La Liga and the Champions League all combined? Probably not. McBarca says, "Mo, be honest, you and me both accept that if we win, we win. If we lose, we saw that coming. It is what it is. I'm not expecting anything special in the Champions League." I mean, I don't know why not. We have a good team. We have a great coach. Why not? Why not, my friend? Isaac says we should have signed Dusan just in case no serious team will let go their striker now for Chiao, even if they are whack. I talked about this a little bit. I can't remember if it was yesterday or no. I think it was Wednesday. It was Wednesday's podcast. We're not playing FIFA manager mode, okay? This is real life. You can't just sign players just in case, right? We're talking about Yes, Dusan is a free transfer because he's a free agent right now. But he's going to want a signing bonus, right? 10, 15 million, something. And then you have to pay him salary as well. Even if you pay him a low salary of, I don't know, 7 million net. That's 14 million gross, right? And you're talking about this, Dusan's not gonna want to sign a short contract. He's gonna want 3-4 years. So between signing bonus, salary, taxes, variables, bonuses to the player for performances, things that get included in the standard contract, you're looking at probably €100 million operation over the 4 years. You cannot just throw away €100 million just on a just in case, okay? Again, this is real life. This is not FIFA manager mode. You can't just sign players just in case because they cost a lot of money. And then what do? Right? Okay, you sign Dusan and next summer you sign a striker that you actually want and need. And then what do? You throw the other 75 million in the trash because you signed someone just in case. You know, we have to be a little bit more grounded in reality. Edward says, hi, Mo. I got here late and everybody seems to have asked my Hamza question, but do you think there was any truth that Pep got rid of Ronaldinho because he wanted to keep Messi from playing partying left side? Yeah, that is the truth. I mean, it's not a rumor at this point. It's the reality. When Pep arrived, he saw a culture of indiscipline with players like Deco, Ronaldinho, Eto'o. And that's why he kicked a lot of these players out. Eto'o, obviously, he ended up staying and convincing, winning a spot on the first team. But yeah, I mean, these guys used to go out party. They would come to practice. They even matches. There were stories about Ronaldinho showing up to Champions League matches hungover. So, and when Pep saw that, he's like, absolutely not. And especially seeing the generation that was coming up from Masia, which included Leo Messi, he didn't want that influence around players like Messi. So Pep was like, these guys need to go. And he kicked out Ronaldinho out. He kicked out Deco, amongst others. And the funny thing is, this goes back to that comment that someone once commented. Is like, did Ronaldinho affect the development of Messi? No. Bro, Pep really literally got rid of him to develop Messi. Oh, my God. But anyways, so yeah. And by the way, that was an incredible, difficult thing to do. Like, we're talking about Barcelona had just won the Champions League a year prior to that with these guys, thanks to these guys. And Pep comes a coach, zero experience in first division football, comes and kicks all the stars out. And people are like, okay, first of all, who the fuck are you? Right? You don't even have experience. Second of all, seriously, you're kicking out our stars? Like, what the hell are you doing? Right? And, well, what he was doing was building the best Barca in the history of football. It's crazy, right? You got to have balls to do that. Because one thing, if, I don't know, Alex Ferguson comes and does that, you're like, okay, this is a guy who has plenty of experience, who has won everything there is to win, who knows what he's doing. And if he kicks out a bunch of stars, you're like, all right, like, this is controversial, but he knows what he's doing. Like, this is a guy with stature, right? It's kind of like when Luis Enrique was like, get rid of Mbappe. People were like, shit, Mbappe, really? He's the best player in the world. But okay, it's Luis Enrique. He won a treble. He knows what he's doing. But for Pep to do it at that time, when he was nobody, and to come into a team and kick all these stars out, I mean, that balls, right? But look what he did, right? And that was a very risky move too, because had it not worked, right, that would have been Pep's head. His head would have rolled. Because would have been, people would have blamed him. Would have been like, oh, of course it didn't work. You came and threw out all of our stars. But instead, he built the best Barca in history. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. This is like some coach like Giuliano Belletti right now from Barca Athletic gets promoted and is like, all right, Lamine Yamal, Pedri, Pau Cubarsí, you guys are all out. And we're going to be like, whoa, 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 fuck you doing? Right? And then he goes and ends up winning like a treble or a sextuple. You know, it would be nuts. But that's how it was back then, right? It was like, who the hell's this guy? And what do you mean you're kicking out Ronaldinho? What do you mean you're kicking out Deco? Like, what the fuck is this guy doing? It's crazy, man. But Sanjok with the donation. Thank you so much, Sanjok, for your generosity. As always, thank you for always supporting the channel. But Sanjok says, feel bad for Flick. He just requested a left center back and a striker. Then he dropped the expectations of signing a center back because he knew Deco is shit. I'm worried people are going to blame Flick now if we lose. So dropping the center back, that was that came from Flick because he was happy with. That's why he blew up the Bastoni deal, because he's happy with Cubarsí and Gerard Martin. Not to mention, you know, we do have an overbooking. So it's not that he dropped it because he thought Deco shit. He dropped it because he was like, all right, my priority is the center forward. I need a center forward. That's my number one priority. And, you know, they brought him a left winger, then a right winger. Now they're going to bring him a midfielder. They're trying to close a left back. And they're signing everything besides his number one priority, right? And that's why in those the statements that he made in the preseason, he said, like, I want to center forward, but if they don't bring me, I'll figure it out, right? But at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's what he wants, right? So if we lose, I think it would be a little stupid to blame Flick if we don't end up signing a center forward, because at the end of the day, Flick was very clear. He wants a center forward. It didn't bring him one. But, I mean, there's more to losing than just the decisions of who you sign and who you don't, right? There's, you know, team dynamics. There's lineups. There is strategies, et cetera, et cetera. It's never one-dimensional, right? There's always several reasons why a season can end up becoming a failure. But, yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know what the hell Flick is thinking right now. It's like, yo, I literally asked you for one position, and you brought me every other position except that one position, which is the center forward. But anyways, let's see. Arnold says, Mo, what about the union who defends players if they don't want to play for a club? Can Julian use them to get him free from Patético Madrid? Because in modern day, players end up playing where they want. Can they do it? Yeah, because technically, yes, there is a mechanism to do so. There was a player back in 2005, I think it was Real Sociedad, Iban something. I can't remember his last name. In 2005, his contract expired. He was set to join Athletic Club de Bilbao, but the Real Sociedad had an optional year in the contract that they could execute unilaterally. So they did. They renew him for a year unilaterally, and then they increase his release clause to, I think, 30 or 50 million euros. So this guy took it to court. He challenged it, saying that the release clause was unreasonable given the market conditions. The case took 3 years to be litigated. He ended up winning, but again, it took 3 years, and he spent a whole year without a team. Like, he spent a whole year without playing. So can he do it? Sure, yeah, but if it took 3 years to litigate that case back in 2005, you best believe it's going to take 6 years to litigate it now, because obviously courts keep getting backed up, and with passing of time and with COVID, all courts got backed up everywhere. So can he do that? Sure. Would it work? There's no guarantee, and if it does, it's going to be years. And in the meantime, what's going to happen with Julián? He's going to be at home playing video games. So now the reason why people say, or the saying is that players end up playing where they want, is not because of the players' union or because you can litigate yourself out of a contract. It's because usually Usually, in a club, in a normal club, not ran by morons, when you don't want to play at that club, usually, even if you have a contract, the club is like, all right, let's find you a new destination because we don't want you here if you're not good and if you don't want to be here, right? Kind of like with Ferran. We wanted to renew Ferran, and then he says, I want to leave. So we're like, all right, cool. Where you want to go? PSG? All right. Have them call us. We'll negotiate, right? Because that's usually what normal clubs do. Of course, when you look at a pathetic club like Patético Madrid, it's different because I think Miguel Angel Gilmarin is an idiot, like straight up. Like, why do you want a player that doesn't want to be there? You know what effects that can have on the whole team, on the entire locker room dynamic? But, hey, some people let their egos guide them. And, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Anyways, let's move on to the next bit of news because we're going to talk about a center forward that Barcelona are considering as an alternative in the long list of alternatives to Julián Álvarez in case the Argentine does not come to Barcelona during this summer transfer market. And that player is no other than the George Mikautadze. I'm pretty sure I super duper booper butchered that name. Let's just call him George. George Mika. There. I can't say the full name. But anyways, who's George Mika? You might have seen him, of course. He does play for Villarreal. He's 26 years old. He's a striker that can play in all three positions. So center forward, right wing, left wing, the kind of player that Hansi Flick likes. Versatile attackers that can alternate between all front three positions so he can constantly switch up the attack and keep the other teams guessing. Someone who has, sharp movements around the box and mobility, right? He's a mobile striker, right? The kind of striker that, again, Hansi Flick likes. Now, it's reported that Barcelona have inquired about this player. And I want to say Barcelona, more specifically Deco, because Deco is a big fan. However, it's also reported that Villarreal would want around 60 to 65 million euros for George Mika, which, if you ask me, it's a lot of money. But, and here's the big but, it looks like Hansi Flick is not sold on this option. So this is an option that Deco likes, but that Hansi Flick is not too sold on. So if you ask me, it's most likely going to be a no, because as we've seen, given that Hansi Flick was willing to work with whatever they brought him the first two seasons, the club this time around, they're letting him have a lot of say. For example, Deco had an agreement in place for Bastoni, and then Flick said no, so that got canceled, right? So it looks like, Flick has been given a lot of leeway to choose players. He's not fully sold on George, so it's unlikely that Barcelona end up going for him if in case Julián Álvarez doesn't come. Now, let's look at, where is this? What language is this? That's crazy. Anyways, let's look. My computer, I opened a page and it was all in Thai. I don't know why. I think it's Thai. It looked Thai to me. But anyways, these are the stats of George Mikautadze. As you can see, he's actually 25. I thought he was 26. He's 25 years old, born in Lyon, Georgian citizenship, contract until 2031 with Villarreal, 30 million euro market value, but Villarreal is asking for 60 to 65. I don't know where these clubs come up with these fucking asking prices. But anyways, these were his stats for last season. He did play 2 matches with Lyon before making a move to Villarreal in La Liga. But overall, he scored 16 goals and 6 assists. So a total of 22 goal contributions over 44 matches. He scored 13 in La Liga, 1 in the Champions League, 1 in the Copa del Rey, and 1 in the Ligue 1. And all 6 assists came in La Liga. So my question to you is, knowing what you know about George and having seen him, I'm sure, play against Barcelona. Would you want to sign him? Now, remember, this is just an alternative. Deco's a fan, Flick is not. But if you were Deco, would you pull the plug on someone like George Mikautadze, or would you not? Let me know in the chat section or in the comment section if you are watching this once it ends. All right, let's do more comments, and then we are going to talk about Luis Suarez. And no, not the guy that bites people, the other guy that doesn't bite people. Ayman says, hi, Mo. I heard Julian has a 130 million euro release clause valid for certain clubs, including Barca. If he announces he wants to go, what do you think about that? Yeah, that's what they were reporting at the beginning of the summer. But I can't remember if it was 130 or 140. Maybe 130. I don't know. I feel like I don't fully believe it because I can see Barcelona saying, okay, let's try to negotiate. Let's pay 100, 90 plus 10, right? And then time passes, and now we're getting towards the end, and they're still not budging. So I feel like if that clause truly existed, then I feel like Barcelona would have activated it because, you know, to go from if you're willing to pay 100 to 130, you know, an extra 30 mil, especially after the sale of Ferran, for a player that was your number one priority for the summer, that you're completely obsessed with on signing, I feel like Barcelona would have already activated that. So I feel like maybe it's not true. And the Rebel Pilot says Julian could commit literal arson at Atletico's office and they'll still refuse to let him leave. They're the shameless. Yeah, I feel like they would be like, he set the fire because he loves Atletico so much. He's so passionate about our club, or some bullshit spin like that. But Sajok with a donation. Let's fucking go, Sajok. Sajok says, can we request Mamdani to get us a striker? I mean, maybe if Mamdani was the mayor of Barcelona, maybe he would. Or, yeah. Or would he have to be the mayor of Madrid to make sure Julian leaves? No, he would have to be the mayor of Barcelona. I don't know how much Mamdani can do all the way from New York. But thank you, my friend, for your donation. And let's see. Iris Coulet says, regarding Julian's situation, what drastic action do you think would get him to Barca? And I think at this point, just saying, first, he needs to come out and do a full interview. Grant someone some exclusive interview, you know, advertise it. Oh, exclusive with Julian for the first time ever, blah, blah, blah. You know, hype it up for a few days, social media, full marketing campaign to get everybody to watch it, and then like drop it in prime time, like 9 p.m. on a freaking, I don't know when it's prime time anymore. I don't watch TV. Thursday. I don't want to say Friday because Friday people are out. But yeah, and then have him just sit there for a whole hour, talk about everything that happened from the moment he went to Miguel Angel Gilmarin back in February and said, look, man, your project is shit. Your club is shit. Your fans are delusional idiots. Your coach is a moron that is the highest paid coach in the world, but I don't know why. I want to leave. And then go through the whole timeline and just expose it. And if he has anything, text messages, phone call recordings, whatever he has that can substantiate his claims, and just drop them, man. Fuck it. Expose them, you know? And I feel like that would definitely force them. And if it still doesn't, I would say, all right, fine. I'm just not going to play for a whole year. Now, that does seem super drastic because you're talking about a whole year being on the bench where you're not playing. And footballers' careers are short. They're only 10, 15 years. And to take a whole year off, that's a big chunk of your career. But if your dream truly is to play for Barca and sacrificing a year of your career to fulfill your dream, seems like a price might be big, but a price worthy of paying. Because if you say, okay, I'm injured, I can't play the whole year, and you just sit on the bench, next summer, you bet your ass Atletico are going to want to get rid of him. Because now they're paying an incredibly high salary to someone who's not doing anything besides sit on the bench and whose market value is just taking a nosedive. And next summer, after spending a whole season on the bench, Barcelona's going to come back and say, I'll offer you 70, right? And seeing that his market value is taking a nosedive, they're going to want to get rid of him and quick, right? So that would be kind of like something very drastic. Is it going to happen? They say Julian, he's a professional. He's super nice, blah, blah, blah. And that he would never do that. But hey, you're dealing with these kind of people. Gloves have to come off. It's great to be a professional. It's great to be respectful and do all that. But when you do all these things and all that, all Atletico are doing in return is lie, make you look bad, then at some point you got to say, okay, the gloves have to come off. But anyways, let's do a couple more comments and then we will do the last bit of news. But Pressing Key says if we can't get Julian, just get Mikautadze and Nicolo Tresoldi. And Shahid's Lord says, hey Mo, Luis Suarez from Sporting, what do you think of him? So this is a perfect segue because, ladies and gentlemen, we do have to talk about the last bit of news, and well, it concerns just that, Luis Suarez, because today Fabrizio Romano dropping an exclusive stating that Barcelona are considering or seriously considering the sign of Luis Suarez as an alternative to Julián Álvarez. Now, if you don't know who I'm talking about, no, I'm not talking about Luis Suarez, the Uruguayan who bites people. I'm talking about this Luis Suarez who just bites his food and not other people. But Luis Suarez, he's 28 years old, Colombian center forward who currently plays for Sporting in the Portuguese league. He has a contract with Sporting until 2030. And last season, he scored 38 goals and 9 assists. Pretty impressive numbers, putting him at 47 goal contributions for the Portuguese club. Now, this news again came from Fabrizio Romano today, but later in the day, Barcelona completely denied this, stating that Luis Suarez had been offered to Barcelona by his agent Fali Ramadani 2 months ago, and that Barcelona did study the whole situation. They analyzed it, they analyzed the player's profile and everything else, and they agreed that this was not a viable option for 2 reasons. First of all, they didn't think he was the profile that they are looking for in a center forward. And second of all, because he has an 80 million euro release clause, which Sporting would have asked for the entire release clause. So between the price and the profile, Barcelona did not consider that this would be a good option. So they ruled it out 2 months ago. So now they completely denied Fabrizio Romano's report that they are looking to sign him in the place of Julian. Which, of course, this kind of ties into the first segment when we were talking about Gerard Romero and Frenkie de Jong. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, it's always important to not just get your news from one person and believe what just one person says, because, well, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has agendas. Everybody gets paid sometimes for the things they say. So this is why it's important to keep your news sources, well, varied, and to always verify what you hear. And that includes everything I tell you, right? Anything I tell you in my videos, do not just take my word for it. Go verify it. Double check it. Triple check it. Look at other sources. What is being reported out there? Because even though people swear by Fabrizio Romano as the teller of all truth, well, it only took a few hours for Barcelona to say that this was simply not true. Which, by the way, I don't know if you guys are aware, but crazy things happening with Fabrizio Romano. There's like this whole beef going on between him and other journalists who are exposing him. Apparently, there's been a lot of exclusives that he reported as his own, but they were actually from other reporters that had dug out those stories, and then he just like borrowed them, changed the wording, and then tweeted them as his own news. There's some clubs who've come forward who say that Fabrizio Romano was reaching out to them, offering to publish whatever they want him to publish for $1,000 per post, kind of like including, rumors or lies to destabilize transfers or to increase the value of players, kind of like, kind of like how Barca's always being used. Oh, Barca's trying to sign this other guy. And it's like, no, they're not. It's just the club they're trying to sell them. They're trying to, drive the price up by saying a big club is linked to. And apparently he had gotten paid talking about Romano, by Greenwood. When Greenwood was first arrested for beating up his girl, he was hired by him or paid by Greenwood staff or by Greenwood himself to do a whole PR stunt to clean up his image. And then he's being heavily criticized about how he took advantage of the whole Diogo Jota's death, and he made 100 tweets, 100 posts in one day, in 24 hours, about Diogo Jota. And they were saying that he was pretty much using that tragedy to get more followers. There's like this whole crazy shit going on in that world. But anyways, I stay out of that. I'm just here to give you the news from different sources, verified as much as I can verify it, double, triple, quadruple check, because in the world of sports reporting, sometimes, well, a lot of times, the truth gets bent and played with. But anyways, stay savvy, my friends. Don't just believe anything you read or you hear. Always do your own research. Always double and triple check, because in this world of social media, any idiot with a Twitter account can publish whatever the hell they want. George says, I wonder if Julian tells Simeone that he would jog where he needs to run and walk where he needs to jog if they would keep him. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would do it too. If I'm dealing with a club like this, a club where Julian goes in person, not to the media, not to his agent, no, in person, sits down with the CEO behind closed doors and says, hey, look, this is just not working out. I want to go. And that guy promises him, okay, yeah, absolutely. You can go as long as we get a good offer for you. And then what do? They offer him to Arsenal, to PSG. They deny Barcelona's offer. They mock Barcelona's offer. They make all these statements about how Julian is not for sale. And then he's like, hey, what the hell? You promised me. Oh, yeah, don't worry. Just make statements and we'll let you go. He goes and makes statements. And then they go again, interviews and more statements. Julian is not for sale. And he's going to have to apologize to the fans. He's going to have to, do work so he can earn the forgiveness. And you're like, wait a minute. I'm just doing what you guys told me. And you're going around making me look like the bad guy. I'll be like, oh, fuck you. I'm not going to play. Every match. Hey, Julian, you're starting. Okay. I don't know, coach. My thigh hurts. Just sit it out. Fuck it. Just keep doing that. I mean, look, Julian is still going to earn that big fat salary. So might as well keep training to stay fit and then keep earning that salary. Let's see. Barca Got Culture says, Ronaldinho had Giovanni Dos Santos partying like crazy, kills his career. He was the real kid before Messi. Man, Ronaldinho loved to party, bro. Loved to party. Hendrix Mitchell says, okay, Mo, got to follow up on my comment made on Wednesday. I was the one saying that Julian needs to just not play, but you disagreed due to fines. Well, it's not that I disagreed. I said it's not as easy said. Not as easy said as done. Done as said. I don't know why I just forgot the quote. Because they can fine you, right? But things have changed since Wednesday. Because now we found out that the statements that he made was made because the club asked him to make, right? That he needed to leave. So now it's a lot more egregious. So now it would be worth it to get fined. Because now you're talking about, you have to take drastic measures because you're not dealing with rational adults. You're dealing with bad apples, let's put it that way. But yeah, I mean, it's still not an easy thing to do. That's why I said it's drastic, because they can fine you, right? But I wouldn't outright refuse to play. I would just say, my leg hurts. I don't know. I'm feeling a pinch, right? Right before the match, as opposed to like, no, I'm not playing, because then you get fined by day, by the way. And that adds up quickly. That adds up very quickly. Mohammed says, do you see Pep as a future president of Barca? I don't know about president. I think if he ever got tired of coaching, because he said he's never going to coach Barca again, it would be nice to have him maybe in the scouting department, maybe as someone who can help identify talent. I think someone that still links him to the sport area of the club, as opposed to, president or board member. You're more linked, you're more worrying about numbers, money, sponsorships, merchandising, the administrative part, right? If Pep ever says, okay, I don't want to coach anymore and wants to take a position at Barca, I would want him to be more linked with the sporting area, right? Because after all, he is the greatest coach in history, right? He's a genius when it comes to the sport. So I think his talent would be wasted as president or as board of director member doing the budget and signing sponsorship deals and things like that, where, maybe as part of, the scouting department, he could help identify jewels that Barcelona could sign, or maybe as part of strategy team usually there's like a team that analyzes, dedicated to analyzing tape and tactics of other teams, and then they pass on the reports to the coach. Maybe something like that, right? But that's, of course, only if he says, I don't want to coach anymore, because he is the greatest coach. So if he can coach, he should always coach. Football Moment says, hey, Mo, what do you think about Barca not going for a traditional number 9? We saw how well Lewa did under Flick, like a player with a great off-the-ball movement and strong and tail build. I mean, my alarm just went off, and I'm too far to turn it off. I mean, it's a move that Flick is in favor of, because he wants, football is evolving away from that classic 9, that's static 9 that stays in the box and draws defenders. And some coaches are moving away from that. They're moving towards more attackers who can alternate, who can move, who can drop down to the middle of the field to help with the build-up. That's why we see, for example, in PSG with Luis Enrique, with Dembele playing in the 9. And Flick is that's what he's looking for. Let's see. Mohammed says, what are these rumors that Barca wanting? Oh, wait, we just talked about it. So easy peasy, solved, answered. Enrico says, if we don't get Julián, do you consider the transfer window a failure? I think I answered this question before, but my answer would be no, because we still made other signings and we still strengthened the squad. So I wouldn't consider it a failure. Now, if we had said, okay, we only want a center forward, we're only signing a center forward this summer, that's it. We have one goal only, get a center forward, and that's it. And we didn't, that would be a failure. But that's not what happened, right? We still brought Gordon. We still brought Adeyemi. Looks like Rodri's coming soon. Cancelo hopefully is coming soon. So would it be a disappointment? Yes, because that's the number one priority for Flick. But would it be an absolute failure? No. Valeriano says, well, Julián started scoring all goals for start of the season before transfer window finishes. That would be hilarious if Julián just starts. He gets the pass and just turns around and bang, goal. And just scoring own goals. Edward says, not to jinx anything, but if we buy a 30-year-old Rodri and he gets injured early, mid, or late in the season, will we be screwed? How many years do you think he has left? 3, maybe 4? No, I think if he gets injured, I mean, we go back to pretty much our last season's lineup. Rodri, Bernal, and Pedri. But how many more seasons? Yeah, I want to say 3 or 4. Let's see. Football Moment says, "Hey Mo, personal question. Why does the middle of your mustache have no hair?" I had an accident when I was a kid. I had a I had an injury right here, so it doesn't grow hair. Sometimes people think I do this on purpose, that I shave it. I don't. It just doesn't grow. I also have a line here because I also had an injury here when I was a kid. I don't know if you guys were able to see that because I can't see. Obviously, I'm looking up. But I also have a line right here under my chin where no hair grows either, because when I was a kid, I was a crazy kid. I was like always outside, climbing trees, riding my bike, falling off trees, getting into fight with other kids. Like I was always getting injured and getting hurt. Like I had a, I don't want to say crazy childhood, but in a good way, like a really fun childhood, climbing mountains and things. So I have scars all over my body because thankfully and luckily, knock on wood, I never broke a bone, but I do have cuts and bruises. Well, not cuts and bruises, cuts and scars everywhere, all over my body. Hey, Google. Damn it. My alarm is still sounding in the background. Matthew says, "Hey Mo, glad to catch you live. You're doing a great job. Can't go without listening to your news. My question is, can another team like Arsenal or PSG buy Julian and loan him to us?" Well, thank you, my friend, for your comment. But can they? I mean, first of all, Julian would wanna go to PSG or Arsenal so they can be sold there, right? Can't sell a player against their own will. And in this case, Julian doesn't want to. He only wants to go to Barca. Second, even if Julian agrees to go to Arsenal or PSG, why would they want to loan him to us? If they're gonna pay all this money for a world-class player, it's so they can use that player, not so they can loan him to us, right? This is like, well, pretty much us signing Julian just so we can loan him somewhere else, right? It wouldn't make sense. Ross says, "Hey Mo, if we don't get a striker this season, since everyone is leaving Man City, perhaps next year Haaland." That'd be nice. I wish. Can you imagine Haaland in Barca with Lamine feeding on balls, Pedri feeding on balls, Olmo and Fermin feeding on balls, Rodri, if he comes feeding on ball, Gordon on the left sending crosses to him. Shit, bro, that would be insane. He would be putting crazy numbers. As Billy says, I'm in favor of Pau Victor until Alvarez is sorted out, even if we have to go back in January for him. No, I think Pau Victor is good where he's at. Edwin says, something is telling me Julian will end up coming somehow. Delusion, maybe, but I can feel it. I mean, it's not completely ruled out, right? If he does something super drastic, it's possible. It's possible. And Ross says, "Hi Mo, hope you're good, bro. Do you think Cesc Fabregas is next in line for coaching Barca?" Could be. He's doing really good with Como, and Barcelona are keeping an eye on him. But I also have Giuliano Belletti doing really well. And he's already at the club. But we'll see. We'll see. Right now, we have Flick. We're blessed. Let's count our blessings. Anyways, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. No more news for tonight, but I will, of course, put up videos tomorrow. By the way, yesterday I was editing a video. I uploaded it. And as I was typing the title, my whole block lost internet connection. And I was like, what the hell? Where's my internet? I reset my modem, reset my router, nothing. So thankfully, I had my laptop. I connected to my hotspot on my cell phone. And thankfully, the video was already uploaded. So I just had to finish the title, description, thumbnail, and uploaded the video. Posted the video. And then I was like, all right, let me take out my dog. Maybe the internet will come back. Take out my dog, come back. My intercom system to let me in that a building wasn't working. And that's when I knew that the internet was not just gone in my apartment. It was gone in the whole block. So then I had to finish editing the second video, put it on a memory card, slap that memory card in my laptop, connect the laptop to my hotspot on my cell phone so I can upload the second video. What a hot mess. But anyways, I'll be making videos tomorrow, of course. That's a wrap for tonight. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, be Barca.